And we're live. Good evening, everyone, and to Doc Dat Tagalila. Yes, I know you were here long before I even started this, Doc Dat, you being the first one. Today we're going to be responding to Prime Minister's questions. Yay, I can hear the excitement in your voices. Yes, I can hear it. Totes. This week is quite interesting, because while the questions from Corbyn aren't all that, and kind of continue on from the subject matter of last week, this week this week is special, because something different's happened. Something I've never seen happen has happened. And it's one of those things where I, to an extent, want to get through Corbyn's questions with a certain level of expedience, but at the same time I want to make sure I'm accurate. You'll notice, if anyone has, probably, there are very few sources. And that's because I don't need them for this. Most of the sources I would need for this are in last week's. And it's mostly because the focal point is going to be what the SNP do. What they say, and the fallout. Hello, Stargazer. And SS, Noob with a Brush, Michael. Hello. I've seen people be kicked out of the chamber before. Dennis Skinner is the first one I ever saw it happen to, where he called David Cameron Dodgy Dave and refused to withdraw his remark. I'm surprised the guy didn't need a Zimmer frame to get out, but apparently the steam that he is constantly spewing is his source of power. He's basically a train, which I think is fantastic. So the subject of this week is going to be partially Grenfell and mostly Brexit. But, interestingly, there was no talk of something I thought Corbyn could absolutely hammer Theresa May on. Oh, hello, Puck Baker. And that was employment. Because there were some companies this week in the United Kingdom that have closed down, and there are thousands of jobs at risk. Corbyn could have hammered her on that, but he doesn't. So there are going to be questions he asks that I think are a waste. His first one is a perfect one, and you'll understand why when he asks it, and I'll give you an explanation actually. Because I'm a condescending twat. So, let's dive right into this. I'm gonna let the beginning play as it normally does. I might skip a little, but I shouldn't have to too much.
Questions to the Prime Minister, Mr. Gareth Thomas.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow marks 1 year on from the Grenfell Tower fire.
Actually, I'm going to skip this part because it bores the fuck out of me. So I'm going to use my mouse and find the bit, hopefully.
Opportunity to wish the England others, in addition to...
Oh yeah, the World Cup, for those that don't care or know, started today, where Saudi Arabia was annihilated 5-0 by Russia. Clearly Mohammed was not with them.
My duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Gareth Thomas.
I, and I'm sure the whole House, will want to join the Prime Minister in her comments about the Grenfell tragedy 12 months ago. And my constituents certainly will want me to echo her good wishes to the England football team. Yeah. Can I ask the Prime Minister, though, last year the top 5 cooperatives in our country paid more than 4 times the corporation tax of Amazon, Facebook, eBay, Starbucks and E.ON. The Prime Minister, I'm sure, will want to praise the patriotism of those who have signed up to the Fair Tax Mark campaign. But might this not be an opportunity to encourage the Department for Business and the Treasury to take a more proactive and supportive interest in the growth of cooperative and mutual businesses?
This is actually a very good question, but I think there's a part missing from it. He referenced the fact that the rather large companies that operate in this country don't pay as much tax as cooperative groups. Cooperative groups, for those that don't know, we call them co-ops for the most part. It's basically a grocery store chain. They do have banks. I believe they still have banks. Do they? They have other things as well, other interests. And they have a fantastic giving back to the local community scheme. It's like earning points on a card, and some of the points you earn will go back to the community, and some will be for you, which you can then redeem to get things for free, essentially. I used to do that a lot. I think when I was at uni, my first year, I used the co-op all the time, and at the turn of the tax year, when I got my vouchers, I had over £40 I could spend in a co-op shop. I think I spent all of it on beer. It was a good day. But his question, while good, he could have asked also what the Treasury's doing to encourage the bigger companies to pay their fair share of tax instead of what they have done, which is simply pay a donation fee, which is while more than what Labour managed to do. Because what Labour did, they taxed to the point where the companies left. That's what they did. And so you've got to get these companies to come back here and agree to pay their fair way, which they don't want to. Of course they don't. We all know people individuals, we don't want to pay too much tax. We want to find a way, a loophole, to circumnavigate those rather hefty tax bills you get if you earn a certain amount of money, or earn within a percentage, and then what you earn in that bracket is what you pay on that tax. If that makes you pay tax on that. Yes. So I think on top of encouraging the cooperative groups, which I think is fantastic, I actually think it's great, I think also getting those bigger companies to pay their fair way is important. And I know for a fact one of the Amazon warehouses that delivered to me comes from Jersey. So they found a way to avoid paying tax in my area because they don't actually have a facility on site, which I think is very cheeky, but also in a tax haven of all places. Let's continue.
Yeah. Prime Minister.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his comments about his constituency and the support and thoughts that they have for all those who were affected by the Grenfell Tower fire. On the issue of taxation, he may have noticed that actually HMRC has been requiring some of the large companies that he has referenced in his question to pay more tax.
That hasn't been successful.
And has ensured that we get that tax from them.
It's not going to happen.
And of course they look fairly across all types.
That's a lie.
Types of institution that operate in this country.
That's a lie. You say fairly. The definition of fairly would mean that they would pay business tax at the rate of what a business should pay according to their turnover. These companies will then use the excuse, a very clever one, where they can simply say, well, our business operates in Belgium, so therefore the tax is no longer the problem of the British people. It will then be the problem of the Belgium, who will probably then say to the Belgian people, the taxed company, that actually they operate out of the Bermuda Triangle. So hello to Persuade Me Please. You're not late. SS hello. I've been summoned. Thank you, Doc Dad. Hello, Okie Native.
Mr. Mark Harp.
I'm gonna get to Corbyn. Actually, fuck this. This is stupid. Oh, and I'm gonna try and skip some of Corbyn's virtue because it's just so fucking obvious. Where is it?
Really, really well. This week, Mr. Speaker, is an England win.
That's not going to happen. For those that know anything about football, England have a track record. You see, we won it once, long, long ago. A sport that we gave the world we're not good at these days, though. So much so that we suck at everything. In fact, our hopes for a long time were on a man that looked like Shrek. Problem is, while at club level the guy was phenomenal, although he was used too much as a younger man, so now he's not very good, even though he's only in his early 30s. He was terrible at international level, unless it was friendlies. In friendlies he was fine. In fact, I think he scored the most goals. But he's shit. Anyway.
This week is National Carers Week, Mr. Speaker, and I want to take this opportunity to pay tribute to those thousands of usually unpaid carers whose commitment to family and friends too often goes unrecognised. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister pointed out, tomorrow marks 1 year on the anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire. I'll be meeting families again tomorrow at their silent march. But the sad truth and reality is that many of them are still waiting for the security of a permanent home 1 year on from that disaster. Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister met President Donald Trump last week, did she do as the Foreign Secretary suggested and ask him to take over the Brexit negotiations?
Right, that's his first question. Okay. Am I the only person that thinks that was a complete waste? No? Just press 1 if you think it's a waste of a question. And while you all hear that and press whatever you want, think about it. If Trump was negotiating Brexit, let's consider what he has done so far. He's done what no one else could ever do. And sit down with some fat, trigger-happy shit who abuses his people. And has a worse haircut than Donald Trump. And yes, I'm talking about Kim Jong-un. Who's obviously a great leader and, if was playing in World Cup, would score all goals. Yeah, thank you for the ones. And maybe he was OK native, maybe he was trying to be funny, but in PMQs, I want questions with substance. I want questions that matter. When he first took over as opposition, he wanted to ask that very sort of question that came from the people. What the fuck is this then? This is not an important question. Although it is quite funny, and the next minute or so of laughter certainly confirms that. It is funny, I think it is funny. But Trump has managed to do the unthinkable, and by doing it, he's shown himself to be a bit of a powerhouse, I guess. You can stop mocking him as a political leader if you want. It might be an idea to, because he's managed to get to the point where he can sign an agreement with Un. Whether anything happens from that is a different matter. I don't think you could have done that. And I know some people, after it happened, then switched the goalpost, or moved it, sorry, where they said, he's just sat down with someone that abuses his people. Okay, well, Obama did that with Saudi Arabia. What's your point? I didn't see you reporting on that. Anyway. And yes, I think he it was just a joke from Corbyn, but it's a waste of a question.
Mr. Speaker.
I'll just have to add, Mr. Davis, you're a senior and supposedly cerebral member of the House. Year anyway. You must attempt to recover your composure, man. I'm worried.
I don't think she found it funny because I don't think she thought it was a worthwhile question to ask. Especially considering he started off talking about Grenfell to then end on a joke. That's poor taste, I think. Or I might be the only person again that thinks that. It's interesting that I don't think he has a concept of optics. I don't mean Burko here. Although we'll get to that later. I'm more referencing Corbyn.
About you, and I'm worried for you. The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the Brexit negotiations, I might remind the Right Honourable Gentleman, that before December, Labour cast doubt on whether we would get a joint report agreed. We did.
You can tell where this is going. She's not going to answer the question.
Before March, he cast doubt on whether we'd get an implementation period, and we did. But I wanted, Mr. Speaker, if I may, just to respond to the comment that the Right Honourable Gentleman made about the very important subject of providing those who were the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire with permanent homes. Just so that I can make clear to the House, 203 households were in need of a new home. Every household has received an offer of temporary or permanent accommodation.
No, Saki. No, we're not skipping. I sit here for an hour, I go through the questions, and we know it's happening. But the fact you've taken the liberty of spoiling it means you need to be timed out now. So I'm going to just tab out and do that. And I'm going to do it to all of your accounts, so you know why. Sorry, Saki. You should be ashamed of yourself. For shame. How dare you spoil it for everyone else. Right.
100...
Oh, and with the Grenfell thing, there have been a number of cases highlighted, high-profile cases, of people who have gone out of their way to lie about their involvement within Grenfell, saying they were in Grenfell when it happened, some managing to con the government out of tens of thousands of pounds. These people need to be put away. It's like those people who faked their involvement. I'm not okay. No, ooh, this is a pretty bad comparison. But do you remember those that complained and said they were very close or inside the building, the towers that got hit in New York? I'm not saying it's on par because they're two different tragedies entirely, but those kinds of liars need to be put away. Anyway.
183 have accepted an offer of a permanent home. But I just wanted to say this, because it isn't just...
I do actually want to quickly point out that there's going to be another shifting goalpost again. Obviously, people want permanent homes. Obviously. But circumstances made it so that if it's not possible to offer them permanent homes in London if the properties don't exist, they'll have to be offered outside of London, and that's not a popular choice. That said, when austerity kicked in 2010, a number of families were moved from London to places like Birmingham and Luton, and they had no choice really, because they're on state benefits, and benefits caps meant they could not afford to live in London. London is impossibly expensive. And I know Corbyn had a solution of taking away privately owned properties that were vacant. I disagree with that because they are owned by someone else. They're not the government's property. And it's up to then those people, if they want to let people use their properties while they're not there under some kind of contract, a tenancy agreement, perhaps. I also know that a number of people have rejected offers. They've rejected the offers because they don't want to be moved away from those near to them, which will be difficult to help, to the point where the best you can offer them is temporary, until either new properties are built, which Sadiq Khan isn't doing, at a rate that is considered good enough, even though he has the money for it, or something else I've totally forgotten. Screw it, let's continue.
About the buildings. It's not just about the bricks and mortar of a home. People who suffered that night are having to rebuild their lives. Many of them lost somebody, members of their families with whom they had been living and making a home for years. They lost all their possessions. They lost their mementos. They lost anything that reminds them of the person they loved. When they move into that new home, they will be restarting their lives. And I wanted to pay tribute to all the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire for the strength and dignity that they have shown.
Right, so it's key to note she didn't answer the question, because obviously the question he asked, I'm sure we can all agree, while trying to be funny, what the fuck are you doing starting on Grenfell and ending on that? It takes a special kind of dick to think that that's a good use of a question. He could have asked what the government is doing to help those that still have yet to find permanent residence. I know he's going to mention it now, but seriously, to all those on Twitter who are like, oh, Corbyn's pwning May, fuck off. You've got to take this seriously here. And this was a waste.
Mr. Speaker, I too pay tribute to the families for all that they've been through and all the fortitude they've shown.
Then why did you follow it with a Trump question, dickhead?
But sadly, the reality is that some of them have still not got a permanent home to move into.
Yes, and we know why. And in fact, someone in the chat put it. Sadiq is too busy expanding the budget to police hate speech. Thank you, Sean, you are quite right. Yeah, he would, to persuade me, please. Ooh. This is just a tiger lily. The woman who makes the tentacle hats literally just messaged me again. How cool is that? I'm going to have to get on that.
It's very important for the mental well-being of everybody. They have somewhere they can call home and they know it is their home.
Hey Omegon, actual question. How is your live stream set up? Is it just showing a screen and then it shows comments in lower right hand corner, or is this something different? I think the comments disappear after a certain amount of time. Otherwise they would cover the entire right side of the screen. Although I probably could remove it because I can see the chat on live replay. So I could actually just do that now. Give me a sec. Where is it? Actually, where is it? There it is. Bam. You're gone. So now I don't need it because I don't look at OBS while I'm doing this. I look at PMQs on a different tab and I have the chat on my tablet so I can see all of you. Okay. And I've seen a hate crime hub. It is quite embarrassing. Carlos. Hello, Carlos.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Prime Minister confirmed we would leave the European Union in March 2019 and the transition would end in December 2020. But we now know the government is working on the basis that transition could continue for a further year till December 2021.
Before he asks his question, there is some legitimacy to this because the government has changed on this a few times. But I'm not sure if I don't believe, after looking into this, that this was the current trajectory. But annoyingly, it is a contradiction that he can use.
Could you be clearer today? Which December are we talking about?
I actually think this is quite important. Just saying, when are we actually leaving? That's key here. Oh, and to get it, I'm just going to mention this now because I'm going to forget it. Thank you for correcting me. The day before this, Tuesday, the MPs voted on whether or not there'll be a meaningful vote on the final deal of Brexit. The MPs voted against it. But Theresa May has, for some reason, bent over and allowed herself to be shafted into a, quote, meaningful vote on the final on voting on the final vote on the final deal of meaningful say on the final deal. Okay, I'm going to try it again. Basically, she's kowtowed and given everyone, the MPs, another go at having a meaningful vote on the final deal of Brexit. Mental gymnastics. I thought that's important to mention now because it's going to come up later. In about 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes in this video, not 5 minutes real time, because honestly, I'm not skipping that far ahead. If Saki, you're back, fuck you.
The Right Honourable Gentleman is quite wrong in his the way he has put this to the House, so let me be clear to the House. I think what he's trying to talk about is the backstop arrangement that we have agreed. Let's be very clear what this backstop is. This is an arrangement. This is an arrangement that will be put in place in the circumstances in which it is not possible to put the future new customs arrangement in place by the 1st of January 2021. And it is there to ensure that if those new customs arrangements are not in place, that we are able to continue on the basis that there is no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. We are working to make sure that the future customs arrangements overall deal with the issue of ensuring no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. We don't want the backstop to be necessary. We are working to ensure that we can have our future customs arrangements in place on the 1st of January 2021.
I'm just going to say this now, this customs arrangement thing, if it's anything like the other customs arrangements that have been floated and touted, it had better be a simple leave the customs union. And to Puck Baker, my closest friend voted Remain, and he was here yesterday, and we were talking about this. But even he's with me, he agrees with me. Get on with it. Leave it, he agrees. You can't stay in the customs union and vote and trade worldwide. And the EU is not going to budge to give us any kind of leeway to be able to trade abroad without paying, without you know, if we were a member of the customs union. And yeah, 2021. Okay, so next year the negotiations end. Now, that's not 2021, that's 2019. And I agree there's a transition period, because that means that gives us all time. After negotiations are done, it gives us all time to sign trade deals, to sort out final little details that haven't been signed. Certainly for us, we need the trade deals, which we will get. But 2 years, which also I believe tethers us still to the common fisheries policy, to 2023, or is it 22? Either way, yeah, and the PM's fucking stupid. Thank you, Carlos, I agree. Do I think a hard border in Ireland could reignite the troubles, or is it just... It could. It really could. I don't know how people are in this day and age in Ireland. I'm not familiar with the culture. I know I don't give so much as one shit about the border. I know that we, the UK, will not be imposing a border. It will be the EU. So, I don't know how to go about it, and I don't really care, really. But at the same time, I do care to an extent where if it starts to affect us, the UK, the rest of the UK, then yeah, I'll care. I just hope it doesn't lead to a hard border, as long as, you know, as long as people cannot resort to violence again. And it's stalling. It absolutely is. I agree.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, I'm not really sure whether it's a backstop or a backslide that she's talking about here. Last week I asked the Prime Minister, and I'm sorry to bring this subject up again because it's probably quite...
I've got to say now, I know he reads from a script, and you know he does, because all the jokes he ever says, that's not wit. Other people can just stand up and make a joke. He doesn't. He reads from the script when he does it. I know they all can, almost like canned laughter at it, but come on. Come on. I saw that sucky, or sicky, or whatever your fucking name is now.
Painful for her, but when is the government's Brexit white paper going to be published? Because she did say it would be published before the June EU Council summit. Is that still the case?
No, I'm not going to let her answer first, because the white paper was supposed to have been released today. That was the date originally for the white paper to be released. This was a very important white paper on EU Brexit negotiations. Very important. And understandably, people are pissed off that it got pushed back to the 28th of June, which it was. And now it's been pushed back to early July, essentially. But I fully expect it to then be pushed back even further to the end of July. All this does is tell me that the white paper is not as, and thank you Discna for all your hard work, your due diligence is important to me. But it's just very careless and makes the Prime Minister look even weaker, because it implies that it's going to be something very negative that's going to make her look bad. Right, let's just hear her answer, because I'm pretty sure I've said what she actually says. It's like early July or something stupid.
I didn't actually say that. I said the white paper would be published, and we will be publishing it. We will be bringing ministers together. Just calm down. We will be bringing ministers together after the June Council, and the white paper will be published thereafter.
That's early July.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr. Speaker, it gets ever more confusing because at the weekend, the Cabinet Office Secretary told the BBC that it would not now be until July. Can I offer a solution to her? Instead of worrying about this white paper on which the Cabinet would have to agree, how about making it a green paper in which all their disagreements are in the open and we can all make a comment on it?
But this is interesting. You make comments on things that are speculated all the time. And I know that the current government disagrees, but so does your shadow cabinet. Perhaps we should just have both parties publish everything. How about that? That'd be fantastic. It won't make us look like children, which it would. It wouldn't mean then putting our entire negotiations with regards to Brexit in jeopardy, which it would. How about that, though? It sounds clever, doesn't it, Corbyn? It's certainly an idea you've just postulated, and I've just decided to apply it to all of you. So that seems reasonable. Does that mean I get up the booklet? Who the fuck? Can the UK hurry up and leaving the EU? It's annoying and stalling. It is. It is annoying and stalling, but the negotiations don't end till next year, and then there's the transition period, which hopefully will end before the end of this Parliament, which is 2022. So it has to all be done and dusted before then, because if it isn't, and Conservatives lose the next general election, which I think they might, especially if it's this fucking idiot, I could see him actually is literally standing up in the dispatch box, dropping his trousers and begging Merkel to bury her dildo in him.
But if the government does not, Mr. Speaker, as looks likely, have its detailed proposals ready for the June summit, surely the Prime Minister can't be going to Brussels without anything to negotiate on. So is she going to seek a delay to that summit while the government decides what its position actually is?
He's made a minor mistake here. He's confused two different parliaments. He's confused the EU Parliament and the EU Council. They are not the same thing, and I think this is a mistake on his part. And rather embarrassingly, she's about to ream him for it.
Perhaps I could just help the right honourable gentleman. The June European Council is not a summit about the Brexit negotiations. There will be many issues that the European Union leaders will be discussing at the June European Summit, including the important issue of sanctions against Russia.
Oh, I don't support these in the slightest. Fuck's sake. Okay, so as Doc Dat also knows, because he sent me a lot of sources, the Novichok's thing in Salisbury, yeah, no, that didn't come from Russia. Okay, you can take your tinfoil hats off. Okay, this is up there with the Syria airstrike stuff we did on those supposed chemical weapons facilities, where they found fuck all. After they annihilated them, they would have been able to find trace amounts of certain chemicals. They found nothing, because there was nothing. It takes a special kind of dickhead to sanction this. I know that Russia have been the ones voting against having the inspections, but now the inspections have been done anyway. You literally did it because you didn't, and this is what really pisses me off. You want to impose sanctions against Russia because you didn't get what you want at the UN, so you, being the pouty fucking child, you went out of your way because you're a pouty fucking child to go against democracy to conduct illegal military action on alleged information. No confirmed fact. Not one confirmed fact. And then when it was finally investigated, when the UN sent their team in and they found fuck all, what do? Oh, we need to sanction Russia. We need to do more to sanction them, even though the evidence says otherwise. So, and the Salisbury stuff, Daniel, is quite fascinating because the Novichok wasn't developed in Russia. It wasn't developed there at all, and that's the worst part. It didn't come from. It came from Europe. Okay, somewhere in Europe. I'm not going to go into that. I can't actually remember which country. Was it Switzerland? I think it was possibly developed in the UK, actually. Ask Doc Dat. He remembers this shit. And yes, Dent the Hague. She used to be
I will be pressing to ensure that we maintain sanctions against Russia.
Fuck off.
Because the Minsk agreements have not been put in place.
I'm going to say it again. Fuck off.
And indeed, I think there are some areas where we should be enhancing that sanctions.
Because, of course, Russia's going to suffer. Are you out of your mind? You could sanction them for whatever you want. It won't change the fact that they're one of the biggest countries in the world. I'm pretty sure they'll be fine with the UK sanctioning them, even though Russia could bend the EU over by simply saying, "What's that? You need gas?" Aww. Tough titties.
Regime. He says that my right honourable friend...
Yeah, the Islamic heart thing, I couldn't give a shit about it. I know why she wears it, but I just don't care.
The Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster said that the White Paper will be published in July, and that's different from what I've just said. I have to say to him...
But actually, by definition... Oh, excuse me. By definition, it would be the end of July, because the summit is on the 28th.
Him after the June European Council is July. But if he wants to talk about differences of opinion, I'll tell him what division really is. It's Labour.
Yeah, UK, France. Thank you, Doctor. Okay, so the Novichok wasn't made in Russia. The chemical formula does come from a factory originally from Russia, I believe. But that particular strand was not made in Russia. Yeah. You can sanction Russia all you like, but unfortunately, the evidence is now against you, so you look like even more of a prick than this magnificent pause face makes you look. Yes, she does. She has a bald patch. Theresa May needs to get herself some Alpacin or hair transplant shit going on, I don't know. Or change her hairstyle entirely. I mean, she's getting on.
Members. It's all very well the deputy leader pointing like that. Division is members of the Labour Party circulating instruction manuals on how to deselect all the Labour MPs.
Right. Actually, I didn't know this existed until earlier, so I actually went and looked it up, and it's linked below, because this is brilliant. It's from a WikiHow, and it has 4 methods for deselecting your MP. The first one is join the Labour Party if you're not already a member. Being a member is the best way to have your say on who your MP is. Yeah, if you're well known, it is easy to gain support and have your voice heard. That's basically method 1, right? Gather support for deselection in your local area. So you find out if any other Labour Party members agree that your MP should be deselected. So, right, I'm not totally against this idea of being proactive to make sure the right MP represents your constituency. I'm not against that. But of course it doesn't look very good when you do this. 3 is understand properly what deselection means. It's pretty obvious. If I simply said to my MP, I wish he was deselected, it means I don't want that particular Conservative member representing my area. I don't. Then it'd be down to the Conservatives to find a replacement if enough people agreed. And the 4th one, organise passing motions of no confidence in your MP in Labour Party and Union branches. Oh wait, there's more? Holy shit, there's actually more. There's more than one method. There are 4 methods, but there is at least about 20 odd ideas for it. Oh, this is brilliant. Read it, everyone. It's brilliant. And at this point with Brexit, for those that are interested, I've said it in videos, I've said it on streams, I'm not convinced we're going to leave. And that's mostly because of how this is going. It is getting stupid, it's being dragged out. Although I would say they're still within the negotiation period, so as long as they conclude at the end in 2019 the negotiations, I have no issue. But if they try and extend it or find a way to just not leave, then of course there's going to be a problem. Just the thing though, with the UK, with this idea to deselect MPs, and Labour being the ones circulating it, it does make Labour look very stupid. Because they have recently been firing MPs left, right and centre because of their stances on Brexit, or because they just disagree with them being a bit more moderate to the hard ultra-leftists that are certainly in the front row. And of course, if you see her on screen, this one in the red dress, yeah, Token. I don't know what her name is. I'm going to call her Token.
Mr. Speaker, you've got to face the fact. You've got to face the fact there may now be a meltdown. Mr. Speaker.
I'll be honest at this point. Oh, and hello, Skeptic Simba. The only meltdown going on right now is everyone else getting pissed off with the petulant children acting on their behalf. But we'll get to the best part soon, I promise. You're going to love this. If any of you are interested in politics, the 40-plus people of you watching, hello to all of you. When the Scottish National Party start, yes, this is when shit gets good. I'm not sure I want to interfere much with it, but yes.
They're not actually my words, but those of the Foreign Secretary, even as his fellow cabinet ministers are preparing people for the government's negotiations, which he clearly thinks are going to end in disaster. And last week he also took aim at the Treasury, who's sitting absolutely next to him, calling them the heart of Remain. He criticised them, saying what they don't want is friction at the borders. What they don't want any disruption to the economy. So does the Prime Minister back the Foreign Secretary in wanting more friction and more disruption to the economy?
Yes or no? Let's talk about the...
This one's a tricky one because she should answer, by the way. Obviously the answer should be no. No friction. We don't want that. But how... It depends on the final deal. On what kind of deal... the kind of deal we have will then determine whether or not there will be any friction at all. So I'm not sure if it's a good question because she has to be honest. She has to answer it, really, which she won't. But at the same time, it depends on how you perceive the final deal to be. As well, if that makes sense. Yeah. Unsubstantiated bullshit. Yeah, pretty much.
Positions on this issue. Labour said they wanted to do new trade deals. Labour said they wanted to do new...
Order. I want to hear both the questions and the answers. And as the record shows... I don't require any assistance in this matter. As the record shows, that will always happen, however long it takes. And there's a lot of noise and much gesticulation from members on both sides of the House. But I want to hear the questions and I want to hear the answers.
Mostly I've been hearing today is laughter from the Labour benches. It's quite mostly shrill, so you know it's most of the Token ladies. Emily Thornberry being the loudest because she's got a massive mouth. But still, let's hear the answer or the not answer.
As the Prime Minister, we're grateful.
Speaker, the honourable member for Bolsover is absolutely right. We're in government, not Labour.
Okay, this grumpy shit. This is Dennis Skinner, for those who don't know. Dennis Skinner has been kicked out of Parliament almost 10 times, I think it is. Each time for what is considered to be unparliamentary behaviour. He has said some of the most amazing abusive comments I've ever heard. I'm going to quickly go and Google his quotes, because these are great. Dennis Skinner. Because he is not afraid. He's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's 86, by the way. Jesus Christ, at this age, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so in 1984, he was twice kicked out of Parliament for calling David Owen a pompous sod, which he only agreed to withdraw the word pompous, and the second time for stating to Margaret Thatcher that she would bribe judges. In 1992, he referred to the Minister of Agriculture... Oh, Skype, fuck off. Minister of Agriculture as a little squirt of a minister and a slimy wart on Margaret Thatcher's nose. In 1995, he accused the Major government of the John Major government of a crooked deal to sell off Britain's coal mines. In 2005, he made the remark, the only thing that was growing when there were lines of cocaine in front of Boy George and the rest of the Tories, which is a reference to allegations published in the Sunday Mirror of cocaine use by the Shadow Chancellor George Osborne. In 2006, he accused Deputy Speaker of leniency towards remark made by opposition frontbencher and future Prime Minister Theresa May because she's a Tory, and the most recent one in 2016, he referred to David Cameron as Dodgy Dave in relation to David Cameron's tax affairs. This guy is amazing. I love what he does. Let's continue.
And we've set out our position on the border. But what we see is a Labour Party that said it wanted to do trade deals and now wants to be in a customs union that will stop that. They said they wanted to control our borders and now they want free movement. They said they would respect the referendum and now they won't rule out a second referendum. And that's the difference between us. The Conservative Party in government are going to deliver on the will of the British people.
I'm not convinced, but yes.
Mr. Speaker, in the parallel universe inhabited by the Foreign Secretary, you're apparently not respecting the referendum result unless you want friction at the borders and disruption of the economy. Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet is divided.
They've always been divided, who cares?
And they're briefing against each other. They're even whispering during Prime Minister's question time.
And you guys are chattering over the Prime Minister's answers. You shut the fuck up.
And the Prime Minister has been left with no white paper on which to negotiate. Last week, the transition period was delayed by a year in the space of 24 hours. And yesterday, a deal with her backbenchers was reneged on within hours. Meanwhile, the economy is weakening. Industry is increasingly alarmed at the sheer...
Oh, the grandstanding. Fuck off. Answer your question.
...ineptitude of her government. How much more damage is the Prime Minister going to do to this country before she realises the important thing is to get a deal for the people of this country, not one to appease the clashing giant egos of her cabinet?
I'd actually argue that the clashing giant egos of a party representing the people's interest is actually quite important. So actually your question isn't as valid as you think it is, because our cabinet is split on this. That's brilliant. You may not like it, and I think it's unprofessional as fuck at the same time, but it's brilliant because they then have to argue a compromise. Isn't that the good thing? Or am I missing a point here? Anyway, let's get her to answer the question, because then I want to get to the coup de grace. The main act. Let's call it that.
It's the Labour Party in opposition that are trying to frustrate Brexit. It's the Labour Party that are trying to stop us getting a deal for the British people. This government will deliver on Brexit. This government will deliver a Brexit for jobs. This government will deliver a Brexit that is good for Britain. And if he wants to talk about the economy, the last Labour government left office with 500,000 more people out of work than when they went into office. What's happened under the Conservatives? We have seen nearly 500,000 more people in work just over the last year. That's Conservatives delivering on a Britain that's fit for the future. And I've heard that the Right Honourable Gentleman is trying to organise a music festival, Labour. I'll pass over the fact it's going to have a solidarity tent, which obviously won't have any Labour MPs within it. But I have to say to him, I don't know if all members of the House are aware of the headline act at Labour Live. The headline acts at Labour Live are the Shadow Chancellor and the magic numbers. Just about sums them up.
Wait, the magic numbers still exist? I thought they'd, like, disappeared many, many years ago. Okay. I'm going to try and skip ahead a little, because I want... You know what I want? I want... Oh, there it is. Okay. Here we go. Let's get... Okay. Braces oneself. Oh, yes. This is gonna get good.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister gave a commitment that she would treat Scotland as part of a union of equals.
This is going to play into a part of typical rhetoric from the SNP. The typical rhetoric concerns Scotland's interests within the single market. That is it. But it also means protecting Scotland's powers, because he's going to talk about this. He's going to reference Scotland having powers taken away, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that EU legislation gives them powers to an extent. And so he believes that the MPs will be taking away, these MPs in Parliament, UK Parliament, not in Scotland's Parliament, will be trying to take away powers from Scotland because of the EU's, well, the EU powers that they have. This is going to escalate very quickly, and it's going to be very funny. They are my trigger, yeah. Is the money shot? That's a pretty good pause face, isn't it? Oh, if only I could be bothered, I'd make that a thumbnail. Anyway, this is going to get good.
Yet last night, she pressed ahead with a power grab in direct opposition to Scotland's elected Parliament.
This would be reference to the meaningful vote on the final deal of Brexit.
The Prime Minister silenced Scotland's voice, having broken constitutional convention and plunged Scotland into a constitutional crisis.
I think this is one of those interesting arguments. Does the UK Parliament supersede that of the devolved administrations? Because they're not proper governments. One could argue they are, but they're not. I know that sounds quite rude and callous, but I'm not joking here. Your devolved administrations answer to us. I say us, the UK Parliament. You have powers, yes, but you don't have enough power. And I do agree that you deserve to have more devolved powers given to you. I agree so much so that I'd like it to be to the point where the SNP didn't exist in UK Parliament, because quite frankly they fucking annoy me. But yes. Oh, you saw a clip on Facebook. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm dawdling then, because this is going to get good. And he's getting pissed off, so it's going to get better.
Will the Prime Minister now commit to bringing forward emergency legislation so that the will of the Scottish Parliament can be heard and, more importantly, respected? Yeah.
The answer to that will be a no, by the way. Because to respect the Scottish Parliament would mean to then leave Scotland in the single market, but that can't be done. And I know Scotland voted to stay in the UK on the agreement that we stayed in the EU. So perhaps it isn't so ludicrous to consider a second referendum on the grounds that they were lied to. But they have to also, Scotland themselves, have to respect what the UK voted for as a whole. Because Scotland seems to be very keen on the idea of wanting to be a part, and then a part of some, apart from the UK, to be a part of the EU, who would then basically just fuck them anyway. But yeah, this is going to get good.
Can I say to the right honourable gentleman that we do expect that the outcome, and it will happen, that the outcome of the whole process of Brexit is going to be a significant increase in Holyrood's decision-making power. It is not the case that this is in any way a power grab. Over 80 areas of responsibility, of decision-making, are going to flow direct to Holyrood. Only the SNP could...
Holyrood is the Scottish Parliament place. The place is basically made out of bamboo and sucks ass.
Say that getting 80 areas where more areas where they're going to take decisions was a power grab. If he wants to be concerned about the process that this House has followed in relation to the legislation, his real question should be why it was the Labour Party who manoeuvred last night, used procedural manoeuvres to ensure that there was no debate about the amendments referred to on Scotland.
Yeah, and actually that was pretty fucked. I'm going to grab the Hansard for that after this and link it below, because I did watch that during, well, when my friend left earlier. I was watching some of this. It's bullshit, and I know the government is where the buck stops, but this wasn't actually it wasn't done by the government. It wasn't triggered by them. It was triggered by the Labour Party. How underhand is that? Oh, and I just wanted to do that because this is, I'm smiling. I don't know, you can't see me smile, but I'm smiling. This is pretty funny.
Ian Blackford!
Mr. Speaker, I really do hope that the people of Scotland listen very carefully to what the Prime Minister said, because the reality of the situation is that powers that are enshrined under the Scotland Act in 1998 are being grabbed back by this House. It is a power grab, and the MPs from Scotland were not given the courtesy of even debating it last night. It is a democratic outrage. The people of Scotland will not be disrespected by this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, under the circumstances, given the disrespect that's shown, I have got no option but to ask that this House now sits in private.
This is the best shit ever. I love it. I love it. Basically, he wants the cameras turned off. That's what he wants. It's amazing. And I know this is going to get worse, but I just want to say that, okay, so it's basically one of those weird little motions. I'll read something from Sit in Private. I'll read it from the Publications Parliament. The main use of motions to sit in private has been to test the presence of a quorum of 40 members. In earlier times, the House could be counted to see whether 40 members were present, but the ability to force a count was gradually restricted over the years until it was eventually abolished altogether in 71. Now, this is just a way of it's more of a privacy. It's just a privacy thing. But the fact that this escalates as quick as it does, and yes, the SNP are cancer, but it's brilliant cancer. Because this just does. Oh, what's that? Okay, but it just triggers them so much.
I'm not hearing that at this time, and I'm not obliged to do so, is my clear understanding. Order, the Honourable Gentleman. Order! The Right Honourable Gentleman can resume his seat. I'll happily take advice, but I don't think I'm obliged to hear that at this time.
You see the confusion? Oh, it's brilliant. This is so problematic. I love it. When this happened, and my friend and I were having the barbecue, and we were cooking, watching this, he and I were talking about the constitutional crisis nature of this. It actually is a problem, because it does lead to this issue of, if you think about it, are they actually respecting the Scottish Parliament? The answer is no, and yes, but mostly no, but it isn't the government's doing, it was actually the doing of another party. So that's quite bad. But at the same time, with what happens later, it'll certainly make them look, the SNP look even worse, because they go against parliamentary procedure because they don't get their way. And yes, this is good, and it's gonna get better.
Well, what I'd say to the Right Honourable Gentleman is, I think the standing order requires that the matter be put, if it is to be put forthwith, in order It might be for the convenience of the House for the matter to be addressed at the conclusion of Prime Minister's questions, and if the right honourable gentleman, who had not signalled to me his intention to do this now, order. I'm always grateful for the moral support of the right honourable lady, the member for Broxter, even when it is chunted from a sedentary position. I realise that it's done for my benefit, but I think I can handle the matter. We could have the vote now, but we could have a vote now, or it could be taken at the end. If the honourable gentleman wishes to indicate a desire to conduct such a vote now, so be it. Right.
I beg to move. I beg to move.
Well, my advice, I've had a mixed sequence of advice, is that order. This has not happened, but order. My view is that it is better for the vote to be conducted. My view is that it is better for the vote to be conducted at the...
This all seems pretty reasonable, right? I mean, there's only so many times I can be bothered to listen to Bucko say order, and by the way, if anyone's wondering, I had to pause it, to be honest, because I'm very close to getting monetized on this channel. I'm about 200 hours away, and I don't want to get a copyright claim as soon as I finally get a chance to. Because I want YouTube's money, the whole $1 I will make from each stream, which is fantastic. But it's a reasonable position, what Burko has said. Wait till the end of PMQs, we'll do it then. Ooh, sorry about that.
The conclusion of questions to the Prime Minister. No, I'm not... Order. I always admit of the maximum number of votes and divisions, as the right honourable gentleman should know from his experience in the House, but I hope that he will trust me that I know of what I speak. There can be a division, and it will be at the end of this session, not now. That is the end of the matter. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, might I ask...
No, I'm not debating. No, resume your seat. Resume your seat. Mr. Blackford, no, you're not doing anything. Resume your seat, young man. Resume your seat.
This is great.
No, Mr. Blackford, resume your seat. Resume your seat.
I know the camera can't see it. I know the camera can't see it yet, but he hasn't walked out yet. He hasn't walked out. He's just standing up. He's protesting. And this is where it gets real good.
Resume your seat.
Literally rubbing my legs right now. Order. 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 Order.
Please. The House will have heard very clearly my acceptance that there can be a vote on this matter. Order. Mr. Linden, I say to you, and I say it in the kindest possible spirit.
Shut the fuck up,
don't
Muppet.
Tell me what the procedures of this House are. I'm telling you that there can be a vote at the end of this session, and not now. I'm not going to... Oh, no, Mr. Blackford, order. Under the...
Oh, this is so good. Oh, if I was wearing leather chaps, of course I would be. I love this. The guys and lady, I think, in front, I think they know a lot more about this than the Speaker does. So it's more of a constitutional thing. And parliamentary procedure, and they are his assistants at best.
Order! Resume your seat, Mr. Blackford. Under the power given to me by Standing Order number 43, in light of the persistent and repeated refusal of the right honourable gentleman to resume his seat when so instructed,
This is gonna be so good. Yeah, and the chat, you're all moist. I know you are. This is why it's so good. Honestly, this is up there. This is better than feminist porn.
I order the right honourable gentleman to withdraw immediately from the House for order for the remainder of this day's sitting. He is so in... Right,
he gets kicked out. It's
we'll
brilliant. I love it.
Very well.
The whole SNP party are leaving.
Very well.
Look at that.
Very well.
Look at that. Look at that. Is brilliant. Oh, I love it. If only there was a naughty step.
I'm back. Order. Order. Order.
Order, 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 order. Come on, this is too good. Let them have their fun. This is brilliant.
Order. 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 Mr. Chair, Wardener. You're a very jocular fellow, but you're a little overexcitable today. Calm. Long time to go. I say order.
Order. Okay, basically people who didn't have seats are now taking seats.
I say only to the House, order!
I love it.
I say only to the House, what a pity, because there are Scottish National Party members of Parliament who had questions on the order paper. And as colleagues know, I always like to get to the end of the order paper. They would have had their chance, and they've lost that
Would have had.
chance by their own choice. Mr. Luke Hall.
I don't care about this anymore. This is brilliant. By the way, that is the first time I've ever seen something like this happen in Parliament. It is an actual shock to me. It's fantastic. And it is more exciting than anything I've ever covered on this channel since rebranding it to more political content. And yeah, I love it. I do, before I finish, because I will be soon, if you have any questions, by all means ask. But I have a few little things. Firstly, if you could you please slap a like on the stream, because that will help me grow this channel a bit. Second, in about 2 hours, I was asked, and I'm going to be on the YouTube Saints. I know they're not very popular with people. I know that, but I've been asked, and I'm more than happy to hang out for an hour, even though that'll be at midnight my time, and I have to be up at 6:30 for work. Yay! I have had to put off taking any kind of sleep-related medication because of that. That's fantastic. So if you're interested, go to the YouTube Saints channel. I've got to reach out to someone on Skype, I think, so I can sort it out. I'll probably only stay there. I'll let them know so I can only stay for an hour, because I need to sleep. I could probably do 5 hours is okay. I could do it 5 hours. And yes, that is tonight on their channel. I think it's a chill stream on Thursdays on their channel, midweek thing. I know a few creators that don't like them so much that I'm on good terms with, so I'm sure there will be a small amount of fallout on my end. If Cognitive Thought is listening, hello. So if you do have any questions, by the way, before I finish, whether it be political related or other, please consider asking them now, and I will of course I will try and answer them. And Tiger Lily, I'll let you know about what the tentacle hat wearer creator, who I have a Streamlabs donation for thing, she replied to me because she's looking forward to making it for me. I'll let you know what she said in a bit, because I'm kind of looking forward to getting that hat. And I hope she got some out of that. And Cogs in America, fan-freaking-tastic. Okay. In that case, then, I'm going to end the stream, because then I can go hang out on Discord for a couple of hours. So, thank you all very much to the 40-plus people who watched tonight. What days do you stream? Okay, I'll answer that. I stream on this channel on Thursdays, 9:30 PM GMT. Tomorrow, I stream on my Omegon Plays channel, which is a gaming channel I have, at 9 PM GMT. I do want to do more one-on-one chats with people on my main channel, but it's difficult for me because of social anxiety. I struggle. I'm not very good in streams. On my own, this is something I've been trying to do for months, and I struggle to an extent. But I do put a fair amount of effort into the research side, so I don't come across as anxious. And I've heard breathing exercises help, which they do. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining me this evening. I hope it was as interesting to you as it was for me. And good night.